Talk about the police. Let's talk about yet more grooming gang failures and how these poor kids were let down by the authorities, by the police, by teachers, by social workers, and many, many more. I mean, this is a scandal on a massive scale. Now, essentially, one of the things that happened was that there was this semi-investigation called Operation Linden, and that was conducted by the Office of Police Conduct, the IOPC. But the independent investigators for Operation Linden were told not to probe senior officers. Now, what's the point of that then? They went on, this independent Office of Police Conduct inquiry, Operation Linden, went on to discover that cops did not lodge crime records, even when rapes and sexual assaults were reported, did not question older men discovered in the presence of drunk young girls, and the investigators viewed vulnerable children as troublesome problems rather than victims of serious crime. That was 2022, so that was a couple of years ago that happened. So Operation Linden went on to conclude that there were systematic failings at South Yorkshire Police that enabled industrial-scale abuse between 1997 and 2013. Let's talk to former Met Police Detective Chief Inspector at the Met, as I say, Mike Neville. Welcome, Mike. Well, this instruction not to investigate senior officers, I mean, at the point when the IOPC or when their investigators were told don't investigate senior officers, that should have sounded serious alarm bells, shouldn't it?
Yes, it should have done, and it's it's about the establishments protecting each other, you know, because all the members of the senior police officers are members of the same establishment. They sign up to the same liberal left agenda. And it's not really about systematic failings. What I would suggest is over the last 2 decades, there's been an absolute people terrified that being accused of being a racist will impact on their career. And I'll give you an example. Even some 20 years ago, superintendent at Brixton I was with, we produced a document on who was committing street robberies. When she saw it was described as young black men, she literally ripped out the page. And here you have the same in Rotherham, in Telford, in places like that, Oldham, where senior officers know that the next rank up, they're never going to get it. So they put getting the next pip or crown on their shoulder before helping young girls who are being raped, abused and even murdered.
Look at those dates, Mike, by the way. The Operation Linden, even though it was banned from talking to senior officers, many of whom turned a blind eye and therefore enabled this scourge of rape gangs going on for a long time. It established that there had been systematic failures at South Yorkshire, in the South Yorkshire Constabulary, which of course takes in Rotherham, where there were 1,400 victims at least, that this industrial scale abuse was going on from 1997 to 2013. I mean, you know, can you believe that senior coppers, as well as teachers, social workers, counsellors, politicians, you know, decided that it was worse for them to be accused of racism or Islamophobia than it was for thousands and thousands of vulnerable little white girls to be raped by paedophile sexual predators? They thought it'd be worse for them to be called racists than these evil rapists being brought to justice. I mean, what was going on?
It's the entire West has been corrupted, Kevin. I was over in Cologne in 2015 when the mass sex attacks on New Year's Eve by immigrants on the German women there. The police president tried to cover it up for 3 days before it all burst out and he got the sack. We see the same in Sweden, where they've been trying to cover up these things. So this thing is not just a UK thing. This is a Western world thing where they've tried to enforce this doctrine of multiculturalism. If anybody disagrees with it, if anybody finds a flaw with it, like here, we've got these gangs grooming, murdering and abusing young girls, they are happier to cover that up than to let their doctrine be interfered with. It's an absolute disgrace. And we're lucky now that we can talk about this, because 10 or 20 years ago, you would have been immediately denounced as a racist. And that's like, you know, you're a witch, you put onto the, you put on the pyre and you set fire to. And this is, at least now, with the interventions of people like Elon Musk, that we're able to discuss this without being arrested and condemned as far right or something like that. This is such a scandal that it needs this inquiry so we can name names, and people need to go to prison. Those people who were knighted for police services and stuff like that, or social services and given OBEs and MBEs, they need to be named and shamed and locked up.
Yeah, and Keir Starmer said, you know, dismissing the calls for a public inquiry, which I don't think in the end he's going to get away with. I think we might have to have an inquiry. But he said what the public wants is immediate action. And by that he means action on the J report in 2014, which wasn't into grooming gangs, it was into general child sexual abuse. So it's not entirely relevant. But he said they want those. We must enact what the J report said. No. If you want, you know, I'm all for immediate action rather than a public inquiry, because public inquiries drag on forever and don't tend to achieve very much. But the immediate action I would require, and I would personally sanction, would be, as you just alluded to, Mike, that a task force, if you like, police task force, is tasked with finding all the coppers, all the teachers, all the local councillors, all the local people in authority who turned a blind eye when they knew these kids were getting raped. They get prosecuted. They get arrested. They get prosecuted. I'll take that kind of immediate action instead of a public inquiry, but nothing else. So your thoughts?
Those people they didn't just turn a blind eye either. They absolutely stopped junior investigators looking into these things. They engage, as you were saying today about in Rotherham, they just spoke to some elderly Pakistani community leaders, whoever they are. They never appointed these people. They appoint themselves.
Who are they? Yeah.
Who are these people? And they were allowed to set the agenda. But we saw that when the riots were occurring after Southport, that in places like Birmingham, the police were sort of negotiating with these people as to, oh, yes, we'll come here, we'll come. It shouldn't be like that. In Britain, everybody should be treated the same. Every community should be treated the same. We shouldn't have certain communities where two older guys can come and tell us, oh, this is the agenda, you can police this and you can't police that. It's an absolute scandal. But as I say, it is not just here. It'll be in France, in Belgium, in Germany. It's everywhere. And it's been allowed to happen because we've got this liberal elite in charge of us who are determined, just like they're determined with net zero and whatever else, to push these things through, push multiculturalism through, and be damned if it impacts on children or anybody else.
Yeah, exactly. And those of us who want justice, those of us who want these Pakistani Muslim paedophile rape gangs brought to heel, we're far right, apparently. We're racists. I mean, they're still pushing this narrative that if you focus on the ethnicity of the evil men who raped thousands of poor, innocent young white girls, mostly underage, then you're somehow far right and racist. It's disgusting. Can I get a last comment from you, Mike? I don't know if you're watching the beginning of the show, but it's extraordinary. An outfit called the Welsh Refugee Council 2 years ago teamed up with a school and put out this video enticing migrants, enticing asylum seekers, what they called sanctuary seekers, including Ukrainians, to be fair, but all sanctuary seekers, to come to Wales. You know, we'll give, you know, it's a fantastic place to come. Who do they get to make this video? It's young girls. Girls are about 11 years old, dressed in their little school uniforms. I mean, what is going on through their minds? What on earth are they thinking? Now, I don't for a second accuse the Welsh Refugee Council or the school of somehow saying, oh, come to Wales, look at these little girls. I just think this is crass incompetence and a failure to note that there's a problem with young white girls and many of the migrants that they want to come to Wales. Do you see what I'm saying? What do you think about that?
Well, it's absolute madness, isn't it? When you consider these people must be deaf to what's going on, but we know they are deaf. These people are obsessed with an ideology, and they'll push that ideology through whatever comes. This is the nature of the left. They talk about the far right. It is the far left that we need to worry about in this country who do these crazy things.
Absolutely, Mike. Mike, always a pleasure to talk to you. Thank you so much for coming on.